What happens when speed meets tradition, when raw instinct collides with centuries of discipline? Tonight, it's not just a fight, it's a clash of philosophies. On one side, Jeet Kune Do, fast, unpredictable, built to end a fight before it even begins. On the other, Shaolin Kung Fu, ancient, powerful, refined through generations of warriors. No rules, no limits, just pure skill, precision, and mindset. Every move tells a story, every strike carries a legacy. And when these two worlds collide, only one question remains. Which path truly defines the ultimate martial artist? At the heart of this clash lies something far deeper than punches, kicks, or physical dominance. It is a battle between two completely different ways of thinking about combat, self-expression, and even life itself. On one side stands Jeet Kune Do, a philosophy born from the mind of Bruce Lee, designed to break free from limitation, reject rigid systems, and embrace fluidity. On the other side stands Shaolin Kung Fu, a system rooted in centuries of tradition, discipline, and spiritual depth, where every movement carries history and every technique reflects generations of refinement. This is not simply a comparison of styles, but a confrontation between freedom and structure, between evolution and preservation, between instinct and tradition. Jeet Kune Do is built on the idea that no single style has all the answers. It rejects the notion of fixed patterns and instead encourages adaptability. Bruce Lee believed that a martial artist should be like water, able to flow, crash, or adapt to any situation without being confined by rules. In Jeet Kune Do, there are no unnecessary movements, no wasted energy, and no attachment to tradition, for the sake of tradition. Everything is stripped down to what works in real combat. If something is effective, it is kept. If it is not, it is discarded without hesitation. This creates a mindset where the practitioner is constantly evolving, constantly questioning, and constantly refining their approach. It is not about mastering a system. It is about mastering oneself. In contrast, Shaolin Kung Fu represents a completely different philosophy. It is deeply rooted in discipline, structure, and tradition. Every stance, every strike, and every form has been passed down through generations, carefully preserved and refined over time. The Shaolin approach is not about rejecting the past, but honoring it. Practitioners train rigorously to perfect forms that may have existed for hundreds of years, believing that true mastery comes from dedication to these established systems. There is a sense of order, a belief that within these structured movements lies the wisdom of countless warriors who came before. It is not just about fighting, it is about discipline, patience, and spiritual growth. Where Jeet Kune Do encourages breaking away from tradition, Shaolin Kung Fu teaches the importance of staying connected to it. This creates a fascinating contrast in how each philosophy approaches combat. A Jeet Kune Do practitioner enters a fight with an open mind, ready to adapt instantly to whatever the opponent brings. There is no predetermined sequence, no fixed response, only reaction based on the present moment. In this sense, combat becomes unpredictable and dynamic, driven by instinct and awareness rather than rehearsed patterns. A Shaolin practitioner, however, enters with a deep foundation of learned techniques and forms. Their movements are precise, controlled, and rooted in years of disciplined practice. Each action has been drilled countless times, creating muscle memory that allows for powerful and efficient execution. While it may seem more structured, it is not necessarily rigid. Within these forms lies flexibility, but it is a flexibility developed through mastery of the system rather than freedom from it. Another key difference lies in how each philosophy views the concept of efficiency. Jeet Kune Do is obsessed with directness. It seeks the fastest and most effective way to neutralize an opponent. There is no interest in aesthetics or tradition, only results. This often leads to techniques that are simple, explosive, and brutally efficient. The goal is to intercept the opponent's movement, ending the confrontation before it fully begins. Timing, speed, and precision become the core principles, making every action purposeful and immediate. Shaolin Kung Fu, on the other hand, values a balance between effectiveness and form. While it is certainly capable of powerful and practical techniques, it also carries an element of artistry. Movements can be intricate, combining strength, flexibility, and coordination in ways that reflect both combat application and cultural expression. This does not mean it is less effective, it simply means that its philosophy embraces a broader perspective, where martial arts are not only about fighting but also about personal development and cultural heritage. The philosophical divide also extends to how practitioners view growth and progress. In Jeet Kune Do, growth comes from constant change. The practitioner is encouraged to question everything, even the principles of Jeet Kune Do itself. There is no final destination, no ultimate form to achieve. It is a continuous journey of self-discovery, where limitations are constantly broken and redefined. This creates a mindset that is highly individualistic, where each practitioner develops their own unique expression of the art. In Shaolin Kung Fu, growth is achieved through dedication to the system. Progress is measured by how well one can execute the forms, understand the techniques, and embody the discipline required. It is a path that requires patience, humility, and respect for the teachings. Rather than constantly changing direction, the practitioner dives deeper into the system, uncovering layers of knowledge that reveal themselves over time. It is less about creating something new and more about mastering what already exists. This contrast between individuality and tradition is one of the most striking aspects of this philosophical clash. Jeet Kune Do celebrates personal expression above all else. It encourages practitioners to find what works for them, to adapt techniques to their own body and mindset, and to create a style that is uniquely their own. There is a sense of freedom, a belief that true mastery cannot be confined within a predefined system. Shaolin Kung Fu, however, emphasizes the importance of collective knowledge. It recognizes that the wisdom of the past holds immense value and that by following these teachings, one can achieve a level of mastery that goes beyond individual experimentation. It is a philosophy that values continuity, ensuring that the art is preserved and passed down to future generations without losing its essence. Even the mental approach to combat reflects these differences. Jeet Kune Do promotes a mindset of simplicity and directness. The practitioner aims to clear their mind of unnecessary thoughts, reacting instinctively to the situation. There is no hesitation, no overthinking, only action. This creates a state where the body and mind work as one, responding instantly to any threat. Shaolin Kung Fu incorporates a more meditative approach. The mental discipline developed through training allows practitioners to remain calm and focused, even in intense situations. There is an emphasis on inner balance, where physical skill is supported by mental clarity and emotional control. This creates a different kind of strength, one that is not only physical but also spiritual. Ultimately, this philosophical clash is not about which approach is better, but about understanding the strengths and perspectives of each. Jeet Kune Do represents the idea of breaking free, of adapting and evolving without limitation. Shaolin Kung Fu represents the power of tradition, of discipline and structure built over centuries. One seeks to redefine the boundaries of martial arts, while the other seeks to preserve and perfect them. When these two philosophies meet, it creates a dynamic tension that goes beyond physical combat. It becomes a dialogue between past and present, between innovation and tradition, between freedom and discipline. Each approach offers something valuable, something that can shape not only how a person fights, but how they think, how they grow, and how they understand themselves within the world of martial arts. When it comes to the actual mechanics of combat, the difference between Jeet Kune Do and Shaolin Kung Fu becomes even more intense, more visible, and far more dramatic. This is where philosophy turns into action, where beliefs are tested through movement, and where every second can determine dominance. One style thrives on speed, directness, and efficiency, while the other is built upon form, power, and refined technique. Watching them side by side feels like witnessing two completely different interpretations of what fighting should look like. Jeet Kune Do operates with a mindset that every movement must serve a purpose. There is no room for unnecessary motion, no wasted energy, and no decorative technique. Everything is stripped down to its most effective form. A punch is not thrown for style, it is thrown to land as quickly and efficiently as possible. A kick is not extended for beauty, it is delivered with precision and speed, aimed to disrupt or finish the opponent instantly. This creates a fighting style that feels explosive, unpredictable, and incredibly fast. The practitioner is constantly looking for the shortest path between intention and execution, making their movements sharp and immediate. In contrast, Shaolin Kung Fu embodies a completely different rhythm. It is rooted in structured forms that have been developed and refined over centuries. Each technique is part of a larger system where movements flow into one another with a sense of continuity and balance. Instead of focusing solely on speed, Shaolin emphasizes control, stability, and power generation. Every strike is supported by a strong stance, every movement connected to the body's core. This creates a style that feels grounded, powerful, and deeply controlled, where strength is not just in the limbs but in the entire body working as one unit. Speed in Jeet Kune Do is not just about moving fast, it is about intercepting the opponent before they can even complete their action. The concept of interception is central, where the practitioner strikes at the exact moment the opponent initiates movement. This requires sharp timing, awareness, and the ability to read subtle cues. Instead of reacting after an attack has been launched, the Jeet Kune Do fighter aims to shut it down at the very beginning. This gives the style an aggressive edge, where offense and defense merge into a single action. Shaolin Kung Fu, however, often approaches timing with a more layered strategy. While it is certainly capable of quick responses, it also utilizes sequences of movements that build upon each other. A block may transition into a counter, which then flows into another technique, creating a chain of actions that maintain pressure on the opponent. This creates a rhythm that can feel almost like a dance, where each movement has a place and purpose within a larger sequence. It is less about ending the fight in a single moment, and more about controlling the flow of the encounter over time. Directness is another defining characteristic of Jeet Kune Do. The philosophy encourages taking the most straightforward path to the target, avoiding unnecessary detours or complex setups. If a straight punch can reach the opponent, there is no need to use a spinning technique or elaborate combination. This simplicity makes the style highly practical, especially in unpredictable situations. The practitioner is trained to cut through complexity, focusing only on what is essential. Shaolin Kung Fu, in comparison, often embraces complexity as part of its system. Techniques can involve intricate hand movements, coordinated footwork, and precise body positioning. This does not mean it is inefficient. It simply reflects a different approach to combat. The complexity allows for versatility, enabling the practitioner to adapt within the framework of the system. A single movement can serve multiple purposes, acting as both defense and offense depending on how it is executed. This layered approach adds depth to the style, making it both challenging to master and difficult to predict. Power generation also highlights a major difference between the two. In Jeet Kune Do, power is often derived from speed and timing. A fast, well-timed strike can be more effective than a slower, forceful one. The emphasis is on delivering impact at the right moment, using minimal movement to create maximum effect. This often results in strikes that are quick and sharp, designed to disrupt rather than overpower. Shaolin Kung Fu, on the other hand, places a strong emphasis on rooted power. Techniques are often supported by stable stances and full-body engagement. The practitioner learns to generate force from the ground up, channeling energy through the legs, hips, and torso before releasing it through the strike. This creates a different kind of impact, one that feels heavy, grounded, and deeply forceful. It is not just about hitting fast, but about hitting with structure and strength. Footwork further distinguishes the two styles. Jeet Kune Do uses light, mobile footwork that allows for quick changes in direction and distance. The practitioner is constantly adjusting their position, staying just out of range while looking for opportunities to strike. This creates a sense of fluid movement where the fighter appears almost elusive, difficult to pin down or predict. Shaolin Kung Fu, while also capable of mobility, often emphasizes strong, stable stances. These stances provide a solid foundation for both defense and attack, allowing the practitioner to absorb force and deliver powerful techniques. Movements can still be fluid, but they are often anchored by moments of stability that reinforce control and balance. This creates a different visual dynamic, where the fighter appears grounded and rooted, yet capable of sudden bursts of movement. The use of combinations also varies significantly. Jeet Kune Do tends to favor short, direct combinations that end quickly. The goal is not to overwhelm the opponent with a long sequence, but to land decisive strikes that achieve immediate results. Each movement is calculated, with minimal repetition or unnecessary extension. Shaolin Kung Fu often utilizes longer combinations that flow from one technique to another. These sequences can involve multiple strikes, blocks, and transitions, creating a continuous flow of movement. This approach allows the practitioner to maintain pressure and control, gradually breaking down the opponent's defenses. It is a style that values continuity, where each action sets up the next. Even the visual expression of the two styles reflects their underlying principles. Jeet Kune Do appears raw, direct, and almost minimalist. There is a sense of urgency in every movement, as if the practitioner is always seeking the quickest resolution. Shaolin Kung Fu, in contrast, carries a sense of artistry. Movements can be graceful, precise, and visually striking, reflecting both combat effectiveness and cultural heritage. Despite these differences, both styles share a common goal: to be effective in combat. They simply approach this goal from different angles. Jeet Kune Do strips away everything that is not immediately useful, focusing on speed and efficiency. Shaolin Kung Fu builds upon a vast system of techniques, refining them through discipline and practice. One seeks simplicity, the other embraces depth. When these two fighting styles are imagined in direct confrontation, the contrast becomes even more compelling. The Jeet Kune Do practitioner moves with sharp, sudden actions, constantly probing for openings ready to intercept at any moment. The Shaolin practitioner maintains a composed stance, using structured movements to control distance and timing. Each style tests the other in unique ways: speed challenging structure, directness challenging complexity, efficiency challenging tradition. This creates a dynamic exchange where neither approach can be easily dismissed. The speed of Jeet Kune Do can disrupt the rhythm of Shaolin techniques, while the stability and power of Shaolin can withstand and counter rapid attacks. It becomes a battle not just of physical ability, but of strategy and mindset. Every movement carries intention. Every reaction reveals the strengths and limitations of each system. The deeper one looks into this comparison, the clearer it becomes. That fighting style is not just about technique. It is a reflection of philosophy in motion. Jeet Kune Do expresses freedom, adaptability, and the pursuit of efficiency. Shaolin Kung Fu expresses discipline, structure, and the preservation of tradition. These ideas are not separate from the movements. They are embedded within them, shaping how each strike is delivered and how each defense is executed. In the end, the contrast between speed, directness, and efficiency versus form, power, and technique is what makes this showdown so fascinating. It is not about proving one superior to the other, but about understanding how different approaches can lead to equally powerful expressions of martial skill. Each style offers its own strengths, its own perspective, and its own way of interpreting the art of combat. The difference between Jeet Kune Do and Shaolin Kung Fu becomes even more profound when you step away from the battlefield and enter the training ground, because this is where fighters are truly shaped, where philosophies are ingrained into the body, and where the foundation of every movement is built long before any real confrontation takes place. The way each system approaches training reveals not only how they prepare for combat, but also how they define discipline, growth, and mastery. One is rooted in a practical, combat-focused mindset that prioritizes real-world effectiveness above all else, while the other follows a traditional path of rigorous conditioning, structured repetition, and deep mental cultivation. In Jeet Kune Do, training begins with a simple but powerful question: what works in a real fight? Everything revolves around this principle. There is no attachment to tradition, no obligation to follow a fixed curriculum, and no requirement to master elaborate forms before applying techniques. Instead, the focus is on developing attributes that can be immediately applied: speed, timing, reflexes, and awareness. Drills are designed to simulate real combat scenarios, pushing the practitioner to react under pressure and adapt to unpredictable situations. Sparring plays a central role, often introduced early in training, because it exposes weaknesses and forces the practitioner to deal with the chaos of a live opponent. This approach creates a training environment that feels dynamic and constantly evolving. There is no sense of completing a system or reaching a final stage because the process itself is endless. A practitioner of Jeet Kune Do is encouraged to question everything, even the techniques they have already learned. If something feels inefficient or impractical, it is modified or discarded. This creates a mindset where growth is driven by experimentation and personal experience rather than strict adherence to tradition. Training becomes less about following a path and more about discovering one's own way. In contrast, Shaolin Kung Fu follows a structured and disciplined training system that has been refined over centuries. The journey often begins with the basics: stances, forms, and fundamental movements that must be practiced repeatedly until they become second nature. These early stages can be physically demanding and mentally challenging, requiring patience and dedication. Holding low stances for extended periods, repeating the same sequences hundreds of times, and developing flexibility and strength through traditional exercises are all part of the process. It is not uncommon for students to spend months or even years mastering foundational skills before moving on to more advanced techniques. This emphasis on repetition and structure serves a deeper purpose. It builds a strong physical foundation, ensuring that every movement is supported by proper alignment, balance, and control. At the same time, it instills discipline and mental resilience. The practitioner learns to push through discomfort, to focus despite fatigue, and to maintain precision even when the body is under strain. This creates a level of control that goes beyond physical ability, shaping the mind as much as the body. One of the most striking differences between the two systems is how they approach forms. In Shaolin Kung Fu, forms are a central component of training. These are pre-arranged sequences of movements that combine strikes, blocks, stances, and transitions into a cohesive pattern. Each form has its own purpose, teaching specific techniques, principles, and combinations. Practicing forms is not just about memorizing movements. It is about understanding the underlying concepts and developing fluidity, coordination, and timing. Over time, these forms become a repository of knowledge, containing the essence of the system within their structure. Jeet Kune Do, however, does not rely on traditional forms. Bruce Lee believed that fixed patterns could limit a practitioner's ability to adapt in real combat. Instead of memorizing sequences, students focus on drills that develop specific attributes. For example, they might practice intercepting attacks, improving reaction speed, or refining footwork. The goal is not to perform a perfect sequence, but to develop skills that can be applied spontaneously. This creates a training environment that feels less predictable but more directly connected to real-world application. Conditioning also takes different forms in each system. Shaolin Kung Fu is maruf for its intense physical training, which often includes exercises designed to build strength, endurance, and flexibility. This can involve everything from traditional bodyweight exercises to more specialized practices like iron body training, where practitioners condition their bodies to withstand impact. Flexibility training is also a major component, allowing for high kicks, deep stances, and fluid transitions. The result is a body that is not only strong, but also highly controlled and adaptable within the framework of the system. Jeet Kune Do approaches conditioning with a more functional perspective. The focus is on developing attributes that directly enhance combat performance. This can include strength training, cardiovascular conditioning, and drills that improve speed and agility. Rather than following a fixed set of traditional exercises, practitioners often incorporate methods from different disciplines, choosing whatever helps them become more effective. This reflects the overall philosophy of Jeet Kune Do, absorbing what is useful and discarding what is not. The role of sparring further highlights the contrast between the two training methods. In Jeet Kune Do, sparring is considered essential. It is through live interaction that a practitioner learns timing, distance, and the unpredictability of an opponent. Sparring sessions can vary in intensity, but they are always aimed at testing and refining skills in a realistic context. This creates a feedback loop where techniques are constantly evaluated and adjusted based on actual performance. In Shaolin Kung Fu, sparring is also present, but it may be introduced later in the training process, after the practitioner has developed a solid foundation in forms and techniques. The emphasis is on ensuring that movements are executed correctly before they are applied in a live setting. This approach prioritizes precision and control, reducing the risk of developing bad habits. When sparring does occur, it often reflects the structured nature of the system, with an emphasis on applying learned techniques in a controlled manner. Another important aspect is how each system views the role of the teacher. In Shaolin Kung Fu, the teacher is often seen as a guardian of tradition, someone who carries the knowledge of the system and passes it down to students. There is a strong sense of respect and hierarchy, with students expected to follow instructions and honor the teachings. This creates a structured learning environment where progress is guided by the experience of the instructor. In Jeet Kune Do, the teacher plays a different role. Rather than being a strict authority, they often act as a guide, helping students explore and develop their own approach. While they provide knowledge and direction, there is an emphasis on individual discovery. Students are encouraged to question, to experiment, and to find what works for them. This creates a more flexible learning environment, where the relationship between teacher and student is less hierarchical and more collaborative. The mental aspect of training also differs significantly. Shaolin Kung Fu places a strong emphasis on discipline, focus, and inner balance. Training often incorporates elements of meditation and breathing exercises, helping practitioners develop a calm and centered mindset. This mental training is not separate from the physical, it is integrated into every movement, creating a sense of harmony between mind and body. Jeet Kune Do, while also valuing mental clarity, approaches it from a different angle. The focus is on awareness and adaptability. Practitioners train to remain present in the moment, free from hesitation or overthinking. This creates a mindset that is quick, responsive, and capable of handling sudden changes. Instead of seeking balance through structured practices, the emphasis is on achieving it through experience and adaptability. Even the pace of progression reflects the philosophical differences. In Jeet Kune Do, progress can feel rapid because the training is directly focused on application. Practitioners may quickly develop practical skills that can be used in real situations. However, this also means that growth is highly individual, with each person progressing in their own way, based on their experiences and efforts. In Shaolin Kung Fu, progress is often slower but deeply rooted. The time spent mastering basics and forms creates a strong foundation that supports advanced techniques later on. This gradual progression builds not only skill, but also patience and perseverance. It is a journey that requires commitment, where mastery is achieved through years of dedicated practice. When these two training methods are viewed side by side, the contrast becomes clear. One prioritizes immediate effectiveness, adaptability, and personal expression, while the other emphasizes structure, discipline, and the preservation of tradition. Both approaches have their strengths, shaping practitioners in different ways and preparing them for combat through distinct paths. This difference in training ultimately influences everything that follows, from how techniques are executed to how fighters respond under pressure. The Jeet Kune Do practitioner moves with spontaneity, relying on instinct and adaptability, developed through practical drills and sparring. The Shaolin practitioner moves with precision and control, drawing. The legacy and impact of Jeet Kune Do and Shaolin Kung Fu extend far beyond the training hall or the battlefield, shaping not only how martial arts are practiced but also how they are perceived across the world. These two systems represent different eras, different ideologies, and different contributions to the evolution of combat arts. One carries the weight of ancient history, preserved through generations of disciplined practitioners, while the other represents a modern revolution, challenging long-standing traditions and redefining what martial arts could become. Their influence can be seen not only in fighters but in culture, cinema, philosophy, and the very mindset of those who seek mastery. Shaolin Kung Fu stands as one of the oldest and most respected martial traditions in the world. Its origins trace back centuries, deeply connected to the Shaolin Temple and the monks who dedicated their lives to physical discipline and spiritual growth. Over time, it became more than just a system of combat. It evolved into a symbol of perseverance, harmony, and inner strength. The techniques, forms, and philosophies developed within this tradition have been passed down carefully, ensuring that the essence of the art remains intact. This continuity is what gives Shaolin Kung Fu its timeless presence, making it not just a martial art but a living piece of history. The impact of Shaolin Kung Fu is visible in countless other martial arts systems. Many styles that exist today have drawn inspiration from its techniques, training methods, and philosophical foundations. Its emphasis on discipline, respect, and structured learning has influenced how martial arts schools operate around the world. Even beyond combat, its integration of physical and mental training has shaped approaches to fitness, meditation, and personal development. The image of the Shaolin monk, calm, focused, and incredibly skilled, has become a global symbol of dedication and mastery. At the same time, Jeet Kune Do represents a turning point in martial arts history. It emerged during a period when traditional systems were often seen as rigid and outdated, bound by rules that did not always translate well into real-world situations. Bruce Lee introduced a radical idea that martial arts should not be confined by style, that effectiveness should take precedence over tradition, and that adaptability was the key to true mastery. This philosophy challenged long-held beliefs and opened the door for a new way of thinking. The influence of Jeet Kune Do can be seen in the rise of modern combat sports and mixed martial arts. The idea of combining techniques from different disciplines, focusing on practicality and constantly evolving, has become a cornerstone of contemporary fighting systems. Fighters today train in multiple styles, selecting what works best for them rather than adhering to a single tradition. This approach reflects the core principle of Jeet Kune Do, absorbing what is useful and discarding what is not. It has changed the way people approach training, making it more flexible and results-oriented. Beyond the technical aspects, the legacy of Jeet Kune Do is deeply tied to individual expression. Bruce Lee emphasized that each person is unique and, therefore, their approach to martial arts should also be unique. This idea resonated with many practitioners, encouraging them to break free from rigid systems and explore their own potential. It shifted the focus from imitation to innovation, from following to creating. This has had a lasting impact not only in martial arts but in other fields as well, where the value of originality and adaptability is increasingly recognized. The cultural impact of both systems is also significant. Shaolin Kung Fu has been a central element in traditional Chinese culture, influencing art, literature, and folklore. Stories of Shaolin warriors, their discipline, and their incredible abilities have been told for generations, inspiring admiration and respect. These stories have traveled across the world, introducing people to the richness of this ancient tradition. The visual beauty of its forms, the depth of its philosophy, and the mystique surrounding its origins have made it a powerful cultural symbol. Jeet Kune Do, on the other hand, gained global recognition largely through Bruce Lee's presence in cinema and media. His films showcased a new kind of martial artist, fast, dynamic, and deeply philosophical. He brought martial arts into the mainstream, capturing the imagination of audiences worldwide. Through his work, he demonstrated that martial arts were not just about fighting, but about self-expression, discipline, and personal growth. This helped break cultural barriers, making martial arts accessible and appealing to a global audience. The contrast between ancient heritage and modern influence becomes even more apparent when considering how each system continues to evolve. Shaolin Kung Fu remains rooted in its traditions, with practitioners dedicated to preserving its techniques and teachings. While there have been adaptations and modern interpretations, the core principles remain largely unchanged. This commitment to preservation ensures that the art retains its authenticity, allowing future generations to experience it in its original form. Jeet Kune Do, by its very nature, resists being fixed or preserved in a traditional sense. It is designed to evolve, to change with time, and to adapt to new circumstances. This makes its legacy more fluid, less about maintaining a specific set of techniques and more about continuing a mindset. Practitioners are encouraged to innovate, to incorporate new ideas, and to keep the philosophy alive through constant growth. This creates a living legacy that is always in motion, never static. Another important aspect of their impact is how they shape identity. For a Shaolin practitioner, being part of the tradition often means carrying forward a piece of history. There is a sense of belonging to something larger, a connection to generations of practitioners who have walked the same path. This creates a strong cultural and spiritual identity, where the individual is part of a greater whole. For a practitioner of Jeet Kune Do, identity is more personal and self-defined. It is not about representing a tradition but about expressing one's own understanding of martial arts. This creates a different kind of connection, one that is internal rather than external. The practitioner becomes their own reference point, shaping their identity through experience and exploration. The global reach of both systems further highlights their influence. Shaolin Kung Fu has established schools and training centers around the world, spreading its teachings far beyond its place of origin. Its reputation for discipline and authenticity attracts students who seek a deeper, more traditional approach to martial arts. At the same time, demonstrations, performances, and cultural exchanges have helped maintain its visibility and relevance in a modern context. Jeet Kune Do has also spread globally, but in a different way. Rather than being confined to specific schools or institutions, its principles have been integrated into various training systems. Many instructors incorporate elements of its philosophy into their teaching, even if they do not formally identify as practitioners of Jeet Kune Do. This widespread influence makes it less centralized but more pervasive, shaping the way martial arts are taught and practiced across different disciplines. The enduring appeal of both systems lies in what they offer to practitioners. Shaolin Kung Fu provides a path of discipline, structure, and connection to history. It appeals to those who value tradition, who seek to immerse themselves in a system that has stood the test of time. Jeet Kune Do offers freedom, adaptability, and personal expression. It attracts those who want to explore, to innovate, and to break away from limitations. When viewed together, their legacies create a powerful narrative of martial arts evolution. Shaolin Kung Fu represents the roots, the foundation upon which many systems have been built. Jeet Kune Do represents the branches, reaching outward, adapting and expanding into new possibilities. Both are essential, both are influential, and both continue to shape the world of martial arts in their own unique ways.